Chapter begins. This section will be on writing equations in slope-intercept form. And you might be thinking, well, I already know slope-intercept form. You do. But we're going to do some different things with it today. So first of all, just a reminder, the slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. Got to make sure that it's stuck in your mind and you know it well. So for the slope-intercept form, to write it at least straight out, you must know the value of m, which is the slope. You must know the value of b, which is the y-intercept. It's not the x-intercept, it's the y-intercept. So this is stuff we've done before. So just to remind you how this works, they may give you the slope and the y-intercept and say, write the equation. So then you just use this format. You write y equals, you plug the slope in for m, write the x, plus write the y-intercept. So that we've done before. We'll do one more. Y equals, then we plug in the slope for m, and since it's a -1 for the y-intercept, we'll write -1. You can write plus -1, but I'm going to just write -1. So that's a review of what we've already done when they ask us to write an equation in slope-intercept form. However, while it's easy to do and very quick, if they give us a slope in the y-intercept, sometimes that's not what they give us. So we'll look at how we can find the slope-intercept form in two other scenarios. So first, we may have to find the slope-intercept form when they give us a point and a slope. Well, now they did give us a point and a slope up here, but they gave us a very specific point. They gave us the y-intercept. So this is saying what will we do when they give us a point that isn't the y-intercept and a slope. Okay? So to find the slope-intercept form with a point and a slope, step 1 is to plug in the x value for x, the y value for y, and the slope for m. So I'll show you what that means on number 3 right here. Then we'll just work through these steps as we go through each one. So don't forget, this is y equals mx plus b. This is the slope-intercept form. And what they're saying is this is an ordered pair. This is an x value. This is a y value. So we plug the x value in for the x, and the y value in for the y, and the slope goes in for m. So that's B2. So when they give us a point and a slope, we know everything in this equation, y equals mx plus b, except for the b. We know the x and the y because we've got the ordered pair, and it's an x value and a y value. We know the slope because it was given to us, but we don't know the y-intercept. But we can find it by plugging these things in. 3 times 2 is 6. We subtract 6 from both sides and get -5 equals b. Now, what we just found was necessary to find in a good thing. But what I want to emphasize is that is not our final answer. Understandably, we solve for a variable, people think, oh, I'm done. But we're supposed to write the equation in the slope-intercept form. So this is a piece of the puzzle, but it's not the answer. Because we already did solve for b, so that's just step 2 of 3. Now step 3 is to rewrite the equation, but this time we won't plug in the x and the y. We want the x and the y back there because they're variables. So we won't plug in the x and the y, but we will plug in the slope, which we told at the beginning, and we will plug in the y-intercept, which we just found. So that, the equation of the line, is our final answer. So we'll do the same thing on number 4. We plug in the x value for the x, the y value for the y, and the slope for m. So I start with y equals mx plus b. I plug -7 in for y, -1 in for m, and 4 in for x. So -7 is the y, the slope is -1, the x is 4. Now we'll use that information to solve for b, the y-intercept. -1 times 4 is -4. We add 4 to both sides. We get -3 is equal to b. So our slope-intercept is -3. So we can now rewrite the equation, but all we plug in is the slope and the y-intercept. We leave the x and the y alone. And if you want to write -1x, you can, but you don't have to. You can just write -x. Okay, if you're watching this for the first time, I encourage you to pause the video and try these two on your own. But I will work through them. But I encourage you to work through them on your own first, then unpause and skip to the answers and see if you got it right. So we'll plug in 5 for the y value, 3 for the slope, -2 for the x value, and solve for b. 3 times -2 is -6. We add 6 to both sides, and we get a y-intercept of 11. So we write the equation as y equals the slope, 3x, plus the y-intercept, which is 11. Do the same thing on one more of them. Plug in -3 for the y, 1/2 for the slope, 2 for the x, and solve for b. Half of 2 is 1. Subtract 1 from both sides, we get -4 equals b. So now we have the slope and the y-intercept. So we plug in the slope into m and -4 into the b for the y-intercept. Okay, so here's scenario number 2. We've looked at what happens if they give us a slope and a point, but sometimes they sadly cause us to do a little more work and they just give us 2 points. Really just adds one more step. If you look, steps 2, 3, and 4 are really identical to what we did as all 3 of our steps on the first scenario. But we'll have this extra step at the beginning because if they give us 2 points, we have to start by finding the slope. So on number 5, our first step is to find the slope between these 2 points. I do y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. 4 minus 1 is 3, 2 minus 3 is -1, so my slope is -3. So that's step 1 that we've done up here. Now truly, it doesn't matter at all which of the 2 points you pick. I'll try to vary it up just so you see it's fine if you pick the first point or the second point, you'll get the right answer either way. But at this point, we're basically imitating what we did on the first scenario, and we're going to pick a point. I'll just pick this one and the slope, and we're going to plug them in to the slope-intercept form just like we did before. I'm going to plug the y value in for y, slope in for m, x value in for x, and then after that we'll solve for b. -3 times 3 is -9. We add 9 to both sides, and we get a y-intercept of b. So now we have what we want. We have the slope and the y-intercept. So we write y equals -3x plus 10. So this takes a little bit of work for sure, but the good news is the pattern's the same every time, and once you get the rhythm of it, I think you'll see it does take a little bit of time, but it's not very difficult. It's pretty straightforward. So number 6, again, our first step is to plug them into the slope formula to find the slope. So we'll do y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Anytime we see minus and negative, we can change it to plus or positive. So -6 plus 2 is -4. -5 plus 4 is -1. So that equals +4 for our slope. And just to make the point that, you can choose either one of these and it'll work, I'll choose this one this time. So I'll plug -6 in for y. I'll plug 4 in for the slope. Plug -5 in for x. and we'll solve for b. Positive 4 times negative 5 is negative 20. Then we add 20 to both sides, and I get positive 14 is the slope-intercept. So my equation is y equals 4x, because 4 is the slope, plus 14, because that's the y-intercept. So just like on the first round, I would suggest you now pause the video and try the next two on your own. Then once you're done, you can press play again and check the work I'm about to do. We start with the slope formula. We do y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Negative 8 minus 12 is negative 20. We change minus a negative to plus a positive, and 4 plus 1 is 5. That reduces to negative 4 for the slope. So now that we have the slope, we use the slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b. We plug in, I'll just use this one, plug in the 12 for the y value, negative 4 for the slope, negative 1 for the x value, and then we will solve for b. Negative 4 times negative 1 is positive 4. We subtract 4 from both sides. We get that our y-intercept is 8. So we have what we need. We have our slope, we have our y-intercept, so we can write y equals the slope, negative 4 times x, plus the y-intercept, which is 8. Okay, one last example. We'll start by finding the slope, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. We change minus a negative to plus a positive. 4 plus 2 is 6. 3 minus 6 is negative 3. And 6 divided by negative 3 is negative 2. Now, I've noticed all these examples, the slope ends up, well, actually, maybe the one on the front, it was 1/2. But anyway, I know the slopes are often becoming whole numbers. I think that'll be true that they will often be whole numbers, but don't assume they'll always be whole numbers. Now that we have our slope, I'll just choose this point, plug in 4 for the y, negative 2 for the m, the slope, 3 for x, and we'll solve for b. Negative 2 times 3 is negative 6. We add 6 to both sides, and I get that the y-intercept is 10. So I now have everything I need for the slope-intercept form. I have negative 2 for the slope and 10 for the b. So I'll get y equals negative 2x plus 10.